Alright traders, George here with an update for you on gold and the S&P. First, let's get over to gold. Coming off of a great, huge short call that I made a little while back, 1204 was the pass-through signal to go long, with 1228 being the first target and a key transition point. If we could get through 1228, then we would look to retest what was target 1 on the big short, okay, 1283s. We actually gapped up to that zone and stayed there for a while. The secondary add-in that I showed you in the room just recently was after we moved up here. If the bulls could take over the top of this balance beam, then they've got a huge air pocket to work into. Same air pocket that pulled price down and caused to be long at 1290.90, 74.40s to hold, and that was absolutely the case. We moved up enough to tag 90.90. We never looked back, and then as soon as we cleared this little shelf here, very strong pop into this air pocket. We're about 55% of the way through right now. We're at 1333s. Okay, now this substantial balance beam up here, which is really the next key target at 87s, it's really a range, and starting in the upper 60s, 1368, low 1370s, that's an area to look for a slowdown. Assuming we continue to move up, that would be an area to watch for a slowdown and a strong rejection of this area here. So in other words, we would put in a resistance swing here, and maybe we'll come back and test a new area here as support and try it at it again. But there's a downtrend happening in gold, in case you hadn't noticed, and if this area here holds, the bears could come right back in and step on this in a hurry. So this is an area to watch to see how strong gold is on this bounce. If it can get over this level, then look to the left. Another air pocket takes us up to about 63, 1463. A couple of other key zones to watch there on the way up, and over that spike, another clean air pocket up to 1565. So this is a real good long rotation here in gold. We need to see if this will hold. Will 1283 hold on a pullback? What will happen at 1387s? Can we get through 1387? That's what's on the table right now for gold. And then to translate that to the GLD, this is the setup that I showed a while back, which was taking over this. Obviously we had a cross over this beam earlier, but the secondary coming over this spike here, and we've moved into a very similar looking air pocket, obviously, compared to what the futures are doing. Same type of scenario upstairs, okay? This downtrend line broken, and what I showed on GLD and a lot of the miners was that they gapped down to new relative lows, and that they could potentially gap up and strand structure down here as an island bottom. That's definitely happened with the GLD. It's happened with a handful of gold stocks as well. So real important structure turnaround here for gold, GLD, and the gold miners across the board. There's your look at GLD. And then let me give you a quick view of the S&P. Now to my running worksheet here on the S&P. This is what I've used for all the calculations that I've made for price ongoing for quite some time. So if you've been in the room, this should be real familiar to you. The last time that I did a video, we were talking about 1627. If the bulls could reclaim that, then we would be going to 45, 48s, and over that a likely retest of the all-time highs. And then my next sequence of upside targets, which I didn't really get into these guys up here, but really 1693, the next key target, and then 1708 to 1716. The neat thing about these targets here is they're in places where we've never been before, outer space as I like to call it. So I'm using some special calculations to come up with these ranges here for 3 of the targets, and for this one a solitary number. But you can see today we actually moved up through Globex and we tagged 1693, and we had about a 10-point sell-off as soon as we hit that. So even this little guy right here is showing some resonance with the trader. So we just hit a new all-time target, and we had a little resistance swing put in there at a predefined price point. Okay, now if you look to the left here, there is a fair amount of commitment up towards these upper regions here. The bulls have this in a ridiculously strong position here. They could pull back anywhere 50 points and just test this blue spike right here. As it is, there's a few spikes a little bit higher, and they've all offered support here. So really with the 1670s holding as support here, free reign to the upside. So the next sequence of targets, I've got the range, an 8-point range here, 1708 to 1716. This target being hit should see a more substantial resistance swing put in. And what we're really going to look for here moving up is where does that next key resistance swing come in, and where do we pull back and test as support. With this pullback here, we actually tested the 2000 highs as support, and in this range we tested the combination of the 2000 and 2007 highs as support. So we broke above all-time highs and essentially tested them as support on this swing right here. And then in moving up, we've got a lot of commitment here. So with price being on top of that commitment area, extremely bullish. Okay, and a good metric to watch to see if price breaks below those areas for any reason. So with the initial line of defense being at about 1670 here, about 21 points lower than where we are right now, we already hit 93. We'll see if these areas here hold as support, and then we'll look for 08 to 16 as the next key target zone. I mentioned earlier, how did you benefit from this knowledge here? We already knew that we wanted to be buyers off of this zone here, and this last ledge over 48, so many traders shorting this action thinking they were going to relive this, when in reality they're going short over the most intense commitment zone. So they're starting to go short at the worst possible spot and having a real tough time with it. It's the same thing with the gold bulls buying the breaks of the bounce beams as support on the way down. So we don't care what market it is, we just care about if then around these key price points. That's the way you need to think about it, and it will absolutely move you into a better place with your trading. Alright, that'll do it for your update, and we'll see you back in the live room.